You wait for it all year long, and this is the episode you've been waiting for, our annual Oscar show. And as always, my guest is Ed Blank. We'll be back to talk Oscars and awards right after this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Outtakes. I'm Fiore, and with me, as always, for like the last, 7 or 8 years or so? We missed last year, but it's been about 7 or 8 years. Ed Blank has been with me to give his predictions for the Oscars, and Ed is back with us once again. We did miss last year due to extenuating circumstances. Ed, great to have you back in the studio again.
Thank you, Fiore.
And we get to talk about movies and Oscars, something we do every time we run into each other, so I guess it's no different. Ed, we were talking before the show, and you said to me that, I'm paraphrasing here, that basically this year was really a lame year as far as movie selections, as far as you were concerned. And, I looked down at some of the movies that have been nominated, and it seems to me that these are the types of movies. I mean, there are no superhero movies or any of the kind that I like in there. They're all the kind of movies that tell about some kind of a story or interpersonal interaction, and usually those are the type of movies and stories that you like. So explain why you think this year's crop is lame.
I think it's probably the weakest year ever in terms of the awards contenders, because so many of the films that are positioned to win on Academy Awards night, as reflected in the quantity of nominations for each, are so agenda-driven. We almost never had this in the distant past, and it's crept up on us with increasing magnitude that films that are selling a specific agenda impose that so strongly on the story they're telling that you can see that if you withdrew that element, the films wouldn't even be made. There would be no selling point. And so I think it's wearying to have one group or another, whatever it is, selling a point of view so forcefully, conspicuously, that I just find it wearying after all these years of films. And I remember somebody saying to me once, you're remembering old films differently than they were. Today's films are better than ever. And I said, no. And my antidote to seeing today's movies is simply to watch one of the great ones immediately afterwards, before, after, and ideally in between. I just think we've come so far down to trying to appease every group that Hollywood is kowtowing to that it has made the film significantly less interesting. And that applies specifically to the group of nominees this year.
Mm-hmm. And what are the agendas, the primary agendas that you are seeing in these films?
Minority agendas of all kinds, feminist agendas. We should be at least half a century back beyond the point of having to assert these things as if the wheel has just been discovered. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was really moved, and I still love to this day the film Sounder, mm-hmm. which in a sense was projecting an agenda of downtrodden blacks in 1972. And it was a Best Picture nominee and deserved to be. But I was watching Hidden Figures, and I thought that was the perfect example of a movie that is so assertive in making a particular case in a particular way. And I'm thinking, this was so many years in the past. Why do we need to do this in 2016? It's It's just that we're getting pelted with so much that it's like going through a pinball machine. If you're not getting one group's agenda, you're getting another or another. And it's it's fine for those who want to see it, but I've been tuning out at a progressively greater rate.
See, maybe we'll get you twisted around. You'll start watching superhero movies with me. There's no agenda in those other than good versus evil.
You mean in this lifetime, Fiore?
Well, there's always hope. And before we get on to the Oscars, I should point out that this year the Critics' Choice Awards, which are sponsored by the Broadcast Film Critics Association, of which yours truly is a charter member, held their awards, almost 2 months before the Oscars came along, trying to be a harbinger, I guess, of what was to come. And to show you, here's what the people. Now, my ballot didn't look anything like this, I can tell you. We'll talk about that later in the show. But here's what the 200-plus members of the BFCA picked for their winners this year. And there's not too many of the movies in there that I'm really. I think, Ed, the only things that I think you and I agreed on was Hell or High Water and Hacksaw Ridge as being two of the. They both made my top 10. I think they made yours as well, didn't they?
I think they were clearly the two best movies of 2016.
Yeah.
Hell or High Water, easily number one, and Hacksaw Ridge, significantly ahead as number two.
Yeah.
And both of them have nominations for Best Picture and some others down the line, but clearly these are not the movies that most of the Hollywood Motion Picture Academy voters are more interested in. And I don't think either one of them is going to win a thing.
That would be a shame. Well, it's that time to talk Oscars, and when we do that, turn the mic over to Ed. So Ed, how's it looking for you this year in the top categories?
Well, I think 5 of the main 6 categories are sewn up. But in all 6, I think there's just one instance where the person I would have voted for had I been a member of the Motion Picture Academy is going to win. So we might as well start with that one. I thought Viola Davis gave the performance of the year a couple of times before, including Doubt in a supporting role. And she really has the leading female part in Fences. Indeed, very often when that show is performed on stage, the leading lady is billed right beside the leading man. And in this case, she is too. But somebody made a decision, probably with her consent, some time ago, that they were going to promote her for all awards as a supporting actress. And that has solidified for her the probability of winning the Oscar. And I think she deserves to, and she's overdue, and it's going to happen. I don't think the other 4 have any chance whatsoever.
Now, see, just interject there. I also voted for her for Best Supporting Actress, but in Suicide Squad.
Oh.
Because she played Amanda whatever in that movie, and usually this Amanda character is a very peace-loving justice, and she played her totally 180% different. She was bloodthirsty and ruthless, and I thought it was great. So we had the same pick, but we had different movies.
Well, she and Denzel Washington appeared in a revival on Broadway of Fences 3 or 4 years ago, and that was the impetus finally to get this made. Because August Wilson, who's nominated for his screenplay, did that many years ago. Geez, he's been dead for, 5 or 6 years. And I think the impetus finally to do it was that it was a sellout success during a limited run on Broadway. There had been plans to make Fences into a film, and by the way, I think it is easily August Wilson's best script. And when James Earl Jones did it on Broadway, there was talk of Paramount producing it with Eddie Murphy in the lead. And in fact, I think at one point Murphy might even have held the rights, but it never happened. and certainly he aged out of the boy role, and he could have done the father role even now probably, but Denzel Washington makes so much more difference at the box office now that he was the one who was going to be able to generate a production. For supporting actor, I think unquestionably the two notable ones all year were two of the guys in Hell or High Water, my favorite movie, Ben Foster and Jeff Bridges. And Bridges does have a nomination. He has won Best Actor before. I think he should win this year, but it's going to go to Dev Patel for Lion, another movie I did appreciate a lot. That would probably be in my top 5. And he doesn't appear until about 54 minutes into the film because the character is played as a little boy by someone else for about half the film, and then Patel appears. And I like him a lot in it. I will not be greatly annoyed when he wins, which he will because he's been winning everything up until now. But I would have voted for Bridges of the 5. As for Best Actress, it is all but inconceivable to me that Emma Stone is very likely to win for La La Land. I think the woman is gorgeous, and I love watching her move about in La La Land, which has some singing and a bit of dancing. And she's not a dancer, but she moves well.
Yeah, well put.
and as a person, her win is not going to be minded by too many others, I think. But much as I really don't want to see this happen, if I were voting, I would put the check mark beside the name Meryl Streep, who I think for Florence Foster Jenkins really, again, gave the best performance of the year. Now, she doesn't need a 4th one. The only actress who's ever had 4 was Katharine Hepburn, and always in the leading category. But I think Streep really gave the performance of the year in that one. And when you compare it to something like what Emma Stone does, as simply the romantic lead in this musical, it only says to me that they want to reward La La Land in every way they can, and she's going to be part of a suite for that. The Best Actor category is the only one that is really going to come down to the wire. For a while, it was seeming as if Casey Affleck was a clear favorite for Manchester by the Sea. He was winning critics' awards one after another and some organizational awards, and he seemed to be a shoo-in. And just in the past 2 or 3 weeks, Denzel Washington has got the momentum, including winning the Screen Actors Guild Award, which more than any other award, I think, can influence which way the actors go, because they are the Screen Actors Guild. And I think this is really going to come down to the end. And while I would have voted or predicted Casey Affleck, I would have voted for Denzel Washington. And I think there's every chance he's going to win a 3rd Oscar for this. But that's the one I feel least comfortable about. Directors, well, it's going to be Damien Chazelle, who is winning everything for La La Land, and indeed has just won the Directors Guild Award for that, which coincides with the Oscars something like 70% of the time. It's not a sure shot, but the fact that he has the most nominated movie, La La Land, has tied the record for 14 nominations with All About Eve and Titanic, both of which went on to win Best Picture, by the way. I think La La Land is going to win Best Film, and Damien Chazelle will win as the director. Would I have voted for him? Of course not. In fact, of the 5 nominees, if one of these guys is going to win, I'd like it to be Mel Gibson for Hacksaw Ridge. Yeah. But as far as I was concerned, it was clearly David Mackenzie for Hell or High Water. And although he was prominently mentioned at the time we were working toward the nominations, he did not make the final slate of 5. His movie made the final slate of 9 in that category, but Mackenzie has no chance to win, so I would vote for Mel Gibson. And has indicated La La Land is a shoo-in for Best Picture. There were only a couple of others that were taken fairly seriously in that regard, Manchester by the Sea and Moonlight. And I don't think either you or I was too enthusiastic about Moonlight.
No, not at all.
I've had unusually mixed word of mouth on Manchester by the Sea. Men, as a rule, have not liked it at all. And when I saw it in a theater, there were three couples leaving at the same time I was leaving the auditorium, and the guys were in unison saying, "That's the last time the women picked the picture." Guys, I've seen a lot worse than Manchester by the Sea. But and Moonlight had a great critical response, but I have had nothing in the way of comments from ordinary moviegoers about that one. I don't think really too many have seen it outside of the art house circuit. So and I think that film's moment has passed. It's La La Land all the way.
Do you think the appeal of La La Land is because it's the closest thing we've come to a musical in what, decades maybe?
Well, I was watching this and I really didn't have any background on it. I'm watching it and the audience is not seeming effusive in any way. And it was a packed house. In fact, I got in the third time I went. But then when you're dealing with 97-seat auditoriums, that can happen. And I'm watching it and I'm thinking, boy, this was done so much better when Jacques Demy made the French film The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and then did a follow-up called Young Girls of Rochefort with Gene Kelly and George Chakiris, Catherine Deneuve, and Françoise d'Orléac, who was her sister. And I like both of those two very much, and I've seen them again and again over the years. And I'm looking at La La Land and I'm thinking, geez, this is kind of a poor man's clumsy take on those two Jacques Demy films. And it turns out that Damien Chazelle, the director of La La Land, acknowledges Umbrellas of Cherbourg as his inspiration. And indeed, one night about 3-4 weeks ago on Turner Classic Movies, when he was the programmer of the month for January, and could select 4 films from their library to introduce, that was one of them. And he acknowledged what an influence that was on him. So I'm kind of pleased that's the case. And if he wins, I can deal with that. Certainly his direction of that was the most imaginative of those nominated. But it just seems to me that's amateur night at the musical, and I felt nothing about the romance of the two central characters. Yeah. It was, to me, neither was explored well. We never understood either character's attachment to his or her profession, and we're supposed to root for them to get together. And I'm sort of rooting for her to meet a guy, excuse me, worth her credentials. But there you are. Sorry, Ryan Gosling.
Yeah, he's a little bit better when he's driving a car and packing a gun. But
has he done that?
Yeah, and driven. Or drive. So in the that's back when he could act. I'm glad you said what you said about Manchester by the Sea, because I absolutely loathe that movie. So the fact that men generally don't like it, that kind of fits in with me, fits in with the show too. Because I remember when the credits came up and I was watching, and I was going, "Yeah, what? What the?"
You know, last night, for the second time in a week, I was having dinner with a woman who was exceptionally enthusiastic about that. And I would have given it 3 stars on a 4-star scale. But I thought one of the things that was clumsy about it was laying out just what the biological relationships were of some of the characters. I kept thinking, have I missed something here? Is he the brother? Is he the uncle?
Nope, same thing happened to me.
And sometimes these loosey-goosey screenplays neglect to get business done. You have to find a way to say up front. I mean, you don't want somebody to walk in and say, "Well, Uncle Waldo, now that you are retired from the fish bait business and are taking care of our mother, whose name is..."
Yeah, right.
I mean, you don't want that either. But on the other hand, just leave out the central... audiences need a hook. They deserve to have some way to grab on to the content of the film. And when you deprive them of that, I don't think you're doing the basic part of the job, the part you get done before you turn the cameras on.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, for those of you that have followed this show in the past, as I said, I'm pretty sure this is Ed's 8th year doing the Oscar show. And there was only one time when I think you missed like 2 or 3 categories. And it was a bad year that year. But other than that, he has been spot on. So if you're filling out any of those little pick the Oscar contests or what have you, there are Ed's picks. You know what to go with. Chances are, hey, it's like the New England Patriots. You're going to probably take home a Super Bowl prize because the stats prove it out. Now, before we get into my picks, I want to talk a little bit more with Ed about the Oscars. There have been several high-profile award shows that have been televised, and those shows, to varying degrees, have turned political.
Oh.
Do you expect this to happen at the Oscars?
I think there's a very good chance it will. You're not going to see Meryl Streep on the stage except as a presenter. A good possibility. Viola Davis is going to be up there as a winner, and she's already made political statements. I don't see Denzel Washington stooping to that. I'm sorry Streep did, and talk about an actor I admire very much who has been so inarticulate all his career. Robert De Niro has all of a sudden come out as one of these major spokespeople for liberal causes, and I'm thinking, man, you could never put it. I was at a junket with him at Cape Fear. He had nothing to say. Martin Scorsese had to carry the ball the whole time, and there's some impetus going on out there now that is stronger than it ever was. Can you imagine a Henry Fonda or a Jimmy Stewart or someone like that going up to accept an Oscar and starting to politic in front of the audience? No. And they were political opposites and best friends, but I just cite them as it's become so shabby, so shameless that these people have an irresistible compulsion to sell people their political perspective.
Yeah.
And it comes from a single side, and I'm bone tired of it.
Yeah.
I will watch the Oscars. I will to the day I die, and it's just a question of which clown makes a bigger fool of himself than the others.
Wow, well said. The shows that have turned political have also experienced a drop in their television ratings. That has happened this year, and it has been pretty consistent. I guess once the show turns political, people start shutting it off or not tuning in the first place because they know what's going to happen. Can the Oscars, because last year they were coming off of one of their worst audience years, can the Oscars afford to have their people, do this political grandstanding? Will it hurt the broadcast of the show? And then as such, would it hurt the prestige of winning the award?
Well, I think, I don't know how many people will tune out if that happens. I think guys would more than women. And let's face it, that is the part of the show that winds up being quoted the most. I mean,
right.
Nothing written or said about Golden Globes. All the comments combined did not add up to the fact that Meryl Streep made a speech when she got up there as the Performer of the Year. I think what matters most with Academy Awards ratings is how many people have seen the key films. Mm-hmm. And when you've got something up there like Avatar or Jaws or Lord of the Rings Part 3, when you've got a blockbuster that's seriously in contention for the top awards, people are more interested. And ideally 2 or 3 or 4 blockbusters. Now that isn't the way Hollywood has traditionally been going in the 21st century. And the oddity is that with all these art house style films in contention this year, you've got some that have really done some business. La La Land and Hidden Figures, key among them. Not too many have seen Lion, and Manchester by the Sea has done relatively well for an art film that escaped into multiplexes. But And a number of people have seen Fences. In fact, I'm surprised and gratified how many have made a point to go to see that. But if people think they're going to have a rooting interest in the Oscars, then they're more likely to have high ratings, and that traditionally is the case as they ebb and flow. It used to be the #1 rated show of the whole TV year, predictably. For many years now, that's been the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And some key football games, but I think the Oscars still tend to be in the top 10, 15, 20, no matter what's going on.
Now, I teased at this on the last show, and Dave put together a really nice little montage. So here, once again, are my selections for the top 10 films of 2016.
Good morning, folks. Open the drawers. You got a gun on you, old man?
You damn right I got a gun on me. Y'all gonna steal my gun too?
We ain't stealing from you, we're stealing from the bank. Woo!
This guy risks his life uncooking the books for some of the scariest people on the planet. Drug cartels, arms brokers, money launderers, assassins. Who survives this kind of clientele? Imagine the secrets this guy has.
What are you doing here?
Who are you?
You think you're invulnerable.
That's right.
Maybe I rip your arm off and beat you to death with it.
I'm sorry about this.
Richard?
He's here to kill you.
Help me. You'll have to trust me.
You better come home to me.
Please, Lord. Help me get one more. Help me get one more.
14 days, astronauts will be here for training. Everything we do can matter to their wives, to their children. I believe it's going to matter to the whole country.
My gals are ready.
Deadshot. Guy shoots people. He's a crocodile, and he eats people. Burns people. You're possessed by a witch, and she's just crazy.
What was that?
Saving the world is not a one-man job.
We fight together or we die together.
You'll have me to protect you.
I need no one to protect me.
To our friends in the West.
Bakawe.
Number 6 on the 10 list.
What do you want?
Your president.
That's not going to happen.
Then every day from this moment forward will be on your head.
Maybe it's true. We all find ourselves in lives we didn't expect. But what I learned was, powerful men don't have to be cruel. I got one guaranteed life. I was gonna live it.
We'll take the next chance. And the next. You're rebels, aren't you?
Save the rebellion! Save the dream!
There they are, and you'll have more of those movies in your home personal collection than you will any of the Oscar nominees. Want to thank Ed Blank for stopping by once again. Always a pleasure, Ed. Till next time, I'm Fiore, and I will see you in the theaters. I'll be the guy in the last row.